Welcome to Season 5 of A Little Birdie Told Me with your host, Rebecca Horan. On episode 12, the final episode, I'm chatting to Julie Millen, health and wellness coach, yoga teacher, and mum of 3. Sponsored by Aptamil Follow-On Milk. We believe that every feed is a gift. That's why we've dedicated over 50 years to breast milk research and created Aptamil Follow-On Milk. Aptamil Follow-On Milk, your life, our science. Breastfeeding is best. Follow-on milk should be used as part of a mixed diet from 6 months. Talk to a health professional. This episode, it's not a retake because... No, what would we call it? It's a follow-on, a follow-up. Yeah, so basically this lovely, lovely lady, Julie Millen, was on the podcast last season, giving birth within a number of weeks, and then by that stage of the podcast season it stopped, and I was like, well, that never got used. But actually the story is so different now. So Julie, welcome. She's here with her beautiful baby Alessia, who you will see in some of the social clips, but you won't see throughout the audio obviously, and she's going to join us for as much of it as possible. But Julie was on the podcast telling such an interesting story about her 2 children, her journey to having her 3rd, which was not easy and isn't for so many, and her career, her life, some tragedies in her life and some triumphs as well. So welcome. I want to call you like a yoga practitioner, mindful. Tell me what exactly you are. So you're so many things.
Oh, do you know, I'm a mom.
Yeah, mum to 3.
Like, it's so funny. Like, I like when I kind of, it's like, who am I? I'm a mom, and that's my kind of my main job. But I guess, like, you know, I'm a yoga teacher, a mindfulness coach. I'm really kind of passionate about helping mums through the journey, I suppose, of motherhood, you know, and I feel like we were just talking before we came on there around, like, my first, it was just so much harder. You know, people say, oh, 3, how do you do it? But actually, it was so much harder just with 1. So I think for me, it's like just helping and talking to other moms and just like being really open, really honest. It's never easy. You know, it's a bit of a, every birth, every pregnancy I've had has been a bit of a journey, and I've learned a lot through each of them. And, you know, whereas she's definitely the easiest, that's probably only there because of the struggles you go through. And I say this to some of my friends who are like recent new mums, it's like you kind of have to go through that to come through the other side. You know, there's not like, listen, maybe there is someone out there like who's like a first time mum breezing through it all, but I kind of feel like we all have our kind of challenges and our struggles. And, you know, sometimes it's the pregnancy that's really hard, sometimes it's the birth, sometimes it's afterwards, or maybe it's the journey to getting pregnant. It's like, it's such an intense chapter or chapters of your life, the whole road to motherhood, the becoming
from being
absolutely
a single person to perhaps married or not, or doing it on your own, to actually raising a human. And we really don't put enough emphasis on the fact you're suddenly, you know, burdened, whether they sleep well, don't, have colic, aren't, have additional needs. Your first child, and that's why they always say the eldest child is more sensitive, maybe it's a more difficult transition, you're probably more stressed when you're around them, and it is a totally different journey to your second and then your 3rd.
It's unbelievable.
You're so calm, like you're always calm, but I was exhausted. You and I used to tic-tac about our 2nd. You'd obviously had trauma to get here with Alessia, but you are in control today, and that's kind of effectively you become an expert at what you're doing.
I think as well, I'm like, she's a very chill baby, and I do wonder, is it because I'm so relaxed? Like, everything seems easier this time. The breastfeeding, we've started feeding recently, things that would have absolutely stressed me out on Beau, who was my first, like, and I like, they don't now, but I mean, I think as well, throw into the mix, like, I had Beau in the height of COVID, like, that was really hard. And like, when I think back to that,
you had all your issues with mastitis.
Oh, so, but like, that was the one. So on Beau, I didn't get mastitis, which was like, he was just more, thanks Missy, pulling out my earring. She's getting involved. But on Beau, it was just that transition into motherhood that nobody can prepare you for, Rebecca. And during COVID. And I was lucky, like, Neil was there for the birth, but it was just such a strange experience. And it's only now, because even on Jack was like, I was very lucky, I think, on my birth. I had very fast deliveries, like really kind of good recoveries. But had mastitis on Jack, was back in 3 times. Jack, that was pretty intense. And then with her, she was the first baby where like my parents could come in and see her in the hospital, or, you know, you could have visitors. Like, to me, that was just a whole new.
You and her, whereas you didn't have.
Whereas
that.
Before, like
Very
on Beau,
it
was strange and funny though. It was like, it was really lonely on Beau because I think I was my first, and I'd I kind of was so worried, even though I wouldn't be kind of naturally a person who worries a lot. All of a sudden I had the responsibility of this new baby. Yeah. And I remember ringing Neil and being like, what if I don't feed him enough, or what if I drop him, or like, like, and I remember lying there just watching him, being like, is he breathing? Is he whatever? Whereas on her, I think you have to go through it though, you just need to, because you learn to trust yourself.
It's the child as well. Maybe Alessia makes you feel calm, or you've a gratitude piece after what you've gone through. I'm not sure. Yeah. I definitely think I was more anxious with my second, with Simone, and that was, again, it was a hard old journey to have her. And I used to do the lying awake looking at her at night. With Gia, actually, she was a more robust child in many ways, sensitive in others, but I think I kind of approached that less perfectionisty. I was a bit like, she'll be okay.
Interesting.
No, but I also think, Julie, like, hormonally, age, everything about us, we're constantly on some kind of trajectory. I don't think it's as simple as like you could be going through something in your life and that affects how you parent. I don't think it's as simple as, the kid is this. I don't know.
I agree. I think there's a number of things, and also it's like that changes over time. It's like they'll just start doing one thing and they change because something might change for them, or they go through a leap or a what, like,
Are you delighted with what you've created with 3? Like, I'm not going to ask you, you're going on to have more kids, but are you so happy with what you went through to get here to have your 3?
I am. And it was, we had a real, I suppose, bump in the road after we had Jack. We lost a little baby. It's coming up in nearly 2 years now. And that'll never be gone, and Alessia will never, it's not replacing that child. And that was never the intention. Like, we were really unsure as to what to do after that loss, because, the thoughts of having to go through that again, but I always just felt, and I've spoken to a lot of women about this, I just felt something was missing. And it's not that it wasn't, my boys weren't enough. I adore them,
but you wanted to also
but there just felt like there was something missing. And the second Alessia was born, I was like, I'm done. Like, I felt like I felt like I was done with being pregnant, loved being pregnant, although her pregnancy was the easiest, I think, in terms of the actual pregnancy. But I was so nervous the whole way through.
Tell us briefly, like, if you want, you don't have to, but you and I obviously spoke openly about this, and I think that's kind of how our relationship started. You, and I'm very sorry, had a really sad pregnancy loss after your 2 boys, and you were going on to have, your 3 kids and hopefully tick all the boxes of completing maybe your family, right? And you very openly shared on your Instagram, which I think got so much traction and engagement, because so many women don't talk about it, do talk about it, don't even tell anyone because they're either ashamed or embarrassed or feel like there's some kind of taboo, or actually they're just private, and so many do, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was the right thing that you shared, because I think you're just touching people who feel really, really lonely. It's a really depressing time. Tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, so like, we obviously were very lucky with Bo and Jack, got pregnant straight away, no issues, like easy kind of deliveries and stuff. And not that I was always very aware, like, a lot of my friends had difficulties, had miscarriages, so I was always very aware. I never took for granted, like, I was never one of those people that kind of saw a positive pregnancy test and thought, brilliant, we're having a baby. Like, I was always like, the next scan, because I was just like, it's just reality, unfortunately. So yeah, I got pregnant. I'd seen a heartbeat. I felt different. I just felt, my womb felt sore. Looking back, I just kind of I was anxious through it, because I just was like, oh, is there something wrong? But I'd seen like a heartbeat, thought it was fine. Went in, I was on my own. I was 9.5 weeks. And yeah, there was no heartbeat.
So you'd had an early scan.
I'd had an early scan because I felt a bit sore, and I just went in to get checked, and like, my consultant was like, yeah, come on in, no bother. Had gone in and saw the heartbeat, fine. That was about 7 weeks, I think. And then, yeah, I went in at 9.5 weeks. I was literally on the way to teach a corporate class. Like, was so kind of chill, kind of blasé about it. But yeah, I went in and I knew the second she put the whatever ultrasound on, and then she's like, oh, we just need to do an internal. And I just said to her straight away, I was like, is the baby gone? And she was like, yeah, the heartbeat's gone.
Did you get such a shock?
Oh God, it was like, it was just like, my body just went into total shock. Like, I just couldn't breathe. So weirdly, I remember, like, she said to me, we should ring Neil, like my husband, and I couldn't even process that. Like, I couldn't even do it. Like, she took my phone and whatever. And yeah, that was really hard. Like, it was hard because I'd had such beautiful experiences, to be honest, in Holles Street, having my boys. It was gorgeous. Like, I loved my births, and but I had to wait a couple of days before I went in and had the procedure. And then I honestly had a really tough time for the procedure. I had a really horrible midwife. I've spoken about it openly. because so many women reached out to me when they had gone through similar. And it just feels so barbaric in this day and age that like even when I had to go in for my procedure, like I went in and was sitting beside women booking in to have their sections, and like
it's messed up.
It's just
messed up.
Absolutely.
And the insensitivity
oh
of
my
that,
God, like
know.
It was just horrendous. And then I had a really, like, I won't get into it now because this is not the time, but I had it was a really, really traumatic experience. What happened before, during and after, what I saw, what I like, and like I just it shouldn't have happened, and you know they all say, oh, that shouldn't have happened, but like it really affected me for a long time afterwards. So in addition to kind of the trauma of losing a baby,
all of these mosaics of women's stories, and there's so many, and men have their stories in such a different way in the world, right? They do, in their mental health, but how we suffer either from traumatic births, traumatic pregnancies, pregnancy loss, stillborn babies. Maybe we get postnatal depression, maybe we don't, mastitis, going back to work. This shit show doesn't just go away, right? And it's there with you for life.
Exactly. What do you think? Sorry, little miss getting involved.
How hard it is.
But it's like, it is. And I just found it like so many people don't talk about it. And it's like, listen, it was more because I did feel really alone with it. Really, really alone. And I just there was a couple of really, really rough months there, and like, listen, it's not gone, you know. Like,
I'm going in for my DNC. This is taking out something in your body that's part of yourself.
And then it was very much like I so we were nearly 10 weeks, so we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. You don't bury a baby. They kind of didn't classify it as a baby. I found that really hard. I had nothing.
I've spoken to you about how I had early pregnancy loss, and then a bit of a later one in the topic. I've spoken to you about people who say, she was only early.
Yeah, or you can go again, or... Sorry.
You were pregnant.
Yeah.
You had a baby growing inside you. I think we've got to really work on reframing that in Ireland.
Oh my God.
It's very strange.
And the care and the aftercare, like there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing.
There's nothing, Julie. You give birth to a baby, you come back at 6 weeks, you're like, how is the baby getting on? Well, actually, I'm broken.
Yeah.
I'm weeing myself. Like, what?
And I think actually you touched something really interesting there. So, you know, a few of my friends had really traumatic births. Like I say, I was extremely lucky, I think, in my births.
Yeah.
You know, of course, it's a shock to the system and, you know, it's like a whirlwind. But I was really lucky, and I really enjoyed my births. I had very fast labour, so I was very lucky with that. But a number of my friends have had really, really traumatic births, and it has scarred them. And it has stopped them from having more children. 100%. Absolutely. Them. It has taken...
I'll never have kids again.
Yeah, and it's taken a huge chunk of them, and they're like a much more nervous person now. And you know, it's like I kind of feel like there isn't really the support there. You know, I remember one of the midwives in Hollis Street said it to me. She was like so it'll hit you somewhere, you know, whether it's like a really difficult pregnancy or a really difficult birth or post or whatever. And I just feel the support there. So that's where I got support. What happened was when I had Beau and it was COVID, I started doing online classes.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing for there was no groups for mums, there was no coffee mornings, there was no whatever, and this just kind of snowballed. And it's so lovely. Like, I still to this day get messages from people who are like, you know, those classes were but they really, I think, did help people, you know. And but they had people, the women helped each other. It wasn't just me. I just kind of facilitated and brought it up.
But about your pregnancy loss, you were mentioning that you were probably going to be a bit quieter on Instagram. You've been through hell and you're very open. And actually what you did is effectively loads of women who were like, I had a pregnancy loss at 7 weeks or 10 weeks, 12 weeks. I feel like shit too, Julie. Is this normal? I can't talk to my husband about it. Physically, I feel like shit. And I remember saying to you, well done for speaking about it. And I do remember saying to you, because you're like, I don't know whether to go again. I think that was a few months after. I'm thinking, wow, you're amazing. You're going again. I remember just finding the struggle to pick myself up and go on and have, Simone, a struggle. So I think you were amazing in going on and having this healthy pregnancy, because it can be very off-putting.
And also I was like, then I started being like, God, what's wrong with me? Like, we have two beautiful, healthy boys.
Oh, I know, the shame.
Why do I want more? And like, you know, is that like, is there something wrong? Like, am I not like, because I'm so grateful. You know, you start like,
is it gender disappointment? Did I want to? It's nothing.
And it's not. And like, honestly, like, it's even was so funny. I found out she was a girl when I had like the harmony test done at whatever 10 weeks, and you know, when the girl rang me and said everything's fine, and you know, do you want to know? And I was like, okay. And they were like, it's a girl, and I was like, sorry, excuse me, because it was full sure. It was, but I couldn't. Aww. And like through the whole way through, I just thought they were wrong. Is
it a nice dynamic to have the two boys and a girl? Do you
know what? It's lovely. Yeah. It's like honestly, and I genuinely mean this, if I'd had a little baby boy, a healthy baby boy would have been so delighted. Like for me, it was like to be able to have the baby, you know, because the whole way along the journey, I was just so afraid, like even in her delivery, because the midwife was just a little bit like unprepared because she came so quick, and I was like, whatever you do, like this baby has to come out alive. Like you've really got to mind this baby. I was way more panicked, I think, because of what had happened. But the dynamic is, it is gorgeous, and the boys are so protective of her, and they're very good with her. They're very gentle. Now listen, they kill each other, and they've also acted up in other ways, and there's tantrums and whatever, but you know, for me, I kind of think growing up
completed.
And she has her 2 big brothers to look after her. She absolutely rules the roost.
Can I ask a personal question? How did you get to the point of still being in the depths of grief? And you were. The tears, and then you think you're having great days, and then you're having shit days again. There's shame as to why. There's unanswered things like what was wrong.
What did I do wrong?
How did you get to the point then of you and Neil? Because often men, and I think you can be pretty honest about that, are a bit like, let's just leave it, right? I don't want to see my wife go through this again.
But that's exactly it, Rebecca. So it was okay. So it was really difficult, I think, for Neil as well. He just didn't want to see me go through it. Like I was like done, like rock bottom. You know, there's kind of 2 kind of big things in my life I remembered. This is definitely there. But for me, it wasn't unfortunately that happened, and that's part of my story. But that little baby, like I took great comfort. Somebody sent me something once, and they were like, once you've been pregnant, their blood goes into your blood, and their cells go into your heart.
It's amazing.
So I was like, I'll always carry that little baby with me. And it was like, it wasn't like a big choice. It was like, I will always carry this with me, and I need to learn to live with it. I'll never get over it. I'll never move on from it. It will just be with me.
Well, that's okay.
And it's been, and it is still, like there's times just little things happen and it hits me. You know, October is the month where, you know, it happened, and you know, that's always really hard. Certain dates or certain things, you know, spark little kind of, you know, meltdowns. But for me, there wasn't a big conversation. There wasn't a big, okay, let's do this. I kind of just felt, for me, there was another baby. There was another baby. And that, you know, it wasn't about parking the grief. That never went. Like there was never a day where I thought, okay, I feel better now. I didn't. Like it was really, really slowly. It was teeny tiny baby steps, and it was like baby steps forwards and then massive steps backwards. And it still happens. Like, you know, I'll be watching some random program that you wouldn't expect to see anything about baby loss come up, or something traumatic about a hospital, and it'll just wallop me. But I will always carry that with me, whether I was pregnant or not, whether I had another baby or not. So it almost was like, it wasn't a big decision, if that makes sense. You know, there wasn't a point where I was like, okay, now I'm ready. I just focused on, it took me a long time to accept it had happened to me. Because I was like, I just didn't want to be that. I just didn't want it to have happened, you know, and I didn't want to have to talk about it in a way.
Or being part of that club.
Yeah. And then it's like, you know, a few of my really close friends have had similar experiences, you know, since. And that's always the first thing. It's like, I hate that you know this pain, because
It's so shit.
Nobody can explain it, you know, and like people don't know what to say. So some people don't say anything at all. So like I had friends that just totally backed off and nothing. That was really hard.
I had a lot of that.
Really hard.
But Julie, I'm 3.5, 4 years. Like, what is Simone? She's just turned 3, and then obviously 9 months of pregnancy, and a few months before that, we'd had miscarriages and ectopic. I this morning had such a cry in the car, and haven't, by the way, in about a year, about the ectopic and knowing the sex and seeing it come out and everything, and all of that. And it came out of absolutely nowhere. I think I'd been watching a documentary last night, went to bed feeling a bit fragile, and this morning in the car, it hit me like a lead balloon. I passed Hollis Street, and it just was, I was so overcome. Yeah. And it never happens anymore. But it's funny, just little things. And I kept thinking about that morning and the surgery. And I remember they had to sedate me afterwards because I could hear a baby being born.
Yeah. Oh, it's
and
horrendous.
then I was watching this baby be taken. So it is never going to leave you. It is never going to leave me. We run with it. We make sure to tell our story, to help others. You went on to have a healthy child. You were so lucky. I also know women who aren't doing that.
So lucky.
But I want to say thank you for the power of your honesty, your empathy to others, reaching out, also the vulnerability of that. It's not easy to share you and your husband's story and your kid's story.
Yeah.
But thank you, because she touched me at the time. I remember just shoving it down the back of I was like, doesn't matter, I've had Simone. I was very much in the shoving period. A lot of my friends said the same. They said, God, you just opened up this conversation. And if we don't hold women in these groups and have these chats, we're fucked, because our mental health is fucked, our relationships are fucked.
It's so true. Oh God, not at all. I think, but for me, it's like, I'm very honest and open on Instagram. Like, you know, I'm no big name. I'm no, like, even here today, I'm like, my God, like imposter syndrome.
Huge following on Instagram.
But it's like, it's more, I felt, you know, if one woman feels less alone, and I would get back to every single person. And actually, only a couple of weeks ago, somebody sent me a message, and they were just like, I'm so sorry to bring this up, because I know you've just had a baby, but I've just found out that I've had, I've just found out that I've had a silent miscarriage as well. And like, I don't know what to do, and blah, blah. And I went, you know, we were voice noting backwards and forwards for a little while. And I was like, I'll never take that pain away. But if that woman feels less alone, even for, we're very attached to mommy.
Don't worry, I don't blame you.
She does this with Neil too, don't you, with Daddy?
You.
But I just, you know, for me, it's like, I'll never take the pain away you won't, from any woman. And there's never anything you can say that's going to take it away. But for me, it was like, if somebody feels like, okay, I'm not alone going through this, because it's a really, really dark place, and I really worry for women's mental health. And for me, like, I couldn't go on, Rebecca, honestly, and be like, oh, look at me, and I have my 2 little boys in there, and I have a little baby girl.
Going out to
like,
yoga, it's great.
But it's like, and I'll, you know, like, one of my like kind of pinned stories on my Instagram is us releasing balloons for the baby, because it's a huge part of my story. And like, the boys will still talk about, we planted a tree in my mum and dad's back garden, and I always go down to the little tree, and, you know, we'll release balloons at the tree at certain times in the year. And it's, you know, it is important, and it is a part of our journey. And then I mean, I know, like, for me, when I had Alessia, obviously I was like, you know, so grateful and was so worried, like, but then was very, very lucky. And, you know, when she was here and she was healthy. But then I started thinking, God, you know, if we hadn't lost the baby, we wouldn't have Alessia. Yeah. And the guilt and the, like, oh God, trying to navigate all of that as well. So exactly. And you just, I think, you know, with that, and with something she has taught me, or this pregnancy, this birth has taught me, is I definitely give myself a bit more of a break with stuff. You know, I don't search for the perfectionism. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, my husband giving out to me yesterday for just trying to do too much.
No, you do. And you're someone I would watch going, like, I wouldn't, like, perfectionism feels like an offensive word, but you are a doer. You're a great mama. You are, you know, trying to problem solve. You're also creating the space for women with your yoga protection. You are amazing, but you do need to probably chill out in yourself.
Yeah, and it's funny, because I think with her, as a mum, I'm way more relaxed with her. But in my life, I wouldn't be a typically chilled person. You know what I mean? And I just, yeah, and like, listen, that's my personality. That's who I am.
Yeah, you're not going to change now.
No, I'm not. But it's like, you know, I think she has added a chilled dynamic to our family, whereas the boys are crazy. She's the boss, but she's definitely calmer. And I'm just so, like, honestly, like, obviously I'm so grateful for all of my children. But I still can't believe it, you know. And I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday who has 2 little boys. She's just had a little girl as well, and she was like, God, I say my daughter, and I just don't believe it. And I'm the same. It feels so, we're still in that kind of phase.
Such a hormonal girl family. Yeah. All we have is girls. Hey. Julie, you are this very well, like, you're like, you've this big following and audience of people who are engaged with you on Instagram, right? You also have your yoga followers who may not even be interested in Instagram, who come and take your classes, right? And you do some gorgeous work practicing, you know, movement and everything. You're so talented. You are married, you know, nothing's perfect, but you've got this 3 children. You live in South County Dublin. You look gorge and put together, and that's your story now, and you've had your bumps in the road. But you were saying there, you know, you've had 2 pretty traumatic things happen in your life. You would include pregnancy loss and that. And I know we spoke on our last podcast, which never went out, about this horrendous time that you experienced when you were living and working in London in a very different life, not this calm yoga practitioner at South County Dublin, this totally different life, right? I was saying to you, I've recently watched It Ends With Us, which is this Blake Lively film about domestic violence and toxic relationships, and just this really stressful story, which was in the end really beautiful. And I wanted to know, would you speak to me briefly, just I suppose for anyone listening, to a pretty shit experience that you had when you were in London?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, it's part of my story. It's not the prettiest part, but it's shaped, I suppose, who I am and how I've got here. So I lived in London, was working in a kind of sales environment, like we're talking Wolf of Wall Street, like you'd ring your bells for your deals. Very intense, very high pressure. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And an ex of mine attacked me. This is a very long story short. He had kind of been stalking me for a little while. We worked together, which made it a little bit difficult.
So you'd broken up?
We'd broken up, and he was kind of trying to win me back or whatever. And I was like trying to be friendly. We worked together. I went over to get some things kind of from his apartment, and I got a text on my phone from one of the girls, and he just started going crazy, like, who's that? And went to grab my phone, and then the next thing I knew, he had kind of slammed me up against the wall. My head went through the wall. There was like a big struggle. I was on the floor. I honestly thought he was going to kill me. It got pretty horrific. Like he was kicking me, and there was a knife involved, and I'll never forget lying on that floor, and I thought, I can't go home to my mum in a bag. Like I just was like, she won't cope with this. I mean, who would ever cope with that? But I don't know why that came into my head. I was like, I'm going to go home to her in like a body bag. And he was trying to choke me, and I didn't like nowhere. I just managed to escape. It was so crazy. I used to teach MMA fighters yoga. And I'd been in the gym with them a couple of weeks before, and like he was like, oh, we'll need to start doing some self-defense stuff with you, because they were teaching me some boxing and stuff. I loved it. And it was literally the weekend before, the guy was like, let's do some kind of self-defense stuff. And I was like, Leon, when would I ever need that? Like, I mean, I wouldn't need that. Julie, you're a young girl in London. Absolutely. So we did it. And like, it saved my life. Like, I somehow got him off me, and I ran. He did catch me before I'd left the apartment, and it was like, those big fire doors, and like it slammed on my arm. I'm sure my arm was broken. My arm to this day is not right. It's like much weaker. But I managed to get out, just took the flights of stairs, like one jump to get me down, and ran. Now, he had said to me, if you call the police, I'll kill you, or if you tell anyone in work, I'll kill you. But I just kept running, rang my brother, who luckily lived in London at the same time. He called the police and got to me, but then I wouldn't get into the car because I was just petrified, obviously. So I remember getting under the police car, and they had to get someone out to kind of coax me out and whatever. Anyway, ended up flying back home the next day, and like I was pretty badly, injured, I suppose. But like I guess that was such a pivotal time in my life, because I couldn't go back to work. I had to move into luckily I had a family, friends who I knew. They took me into their house, because I had to move out of my house for safety. So everything changed really quickly. Like, I kind of had what I thought was just a nice, calm, happy, fun life. And all of a sudden I was afraid of my own shadow. So I stayed here for a couple of weeks, and then I went back, because I was like, no, I need to face this. Like, I'm not being, my mum obviously was like wanting me to stay here. But I went back. I took him to court. I got a restraining order. But that process was so stressful, and it was so hard. He had a lot of money and threw it all at it, and I was like suddenly in this 10-month legal battle.
Can I ask key questions? Sorry to interrupt you. Can I ask key questions that I know women listening?
Yeah.
Who are either in marriages that are volatile, and maybe not even to the point of violence, but coercive or emotionally abusive, or verbally, and then maybe leads to physical. And we know that it doesn't always end well for women. In fact, in most cases, it doesn't end well. Yeah. Right? There's these questions that are nothing to do with blame, by the way, in case it sounds like it. But was there ever signs he was a kind of tricky character or violent, or... Alessia, I know it's not a nice story.
He was, he definitely had a short temper. So he'd never hit me before, but he had a short temper, and he would throw things across the room. Do you know, he'd get frustrated and throw things across the room, or he might bang his fist against the wall.
Pissed off.
But yeah, really, and kind of fly off the handle, but never hit me. And it was funny, I remember the policeman when he took
Abusive
me
in bed, like you found very dominant? No. So gentle in other ways?
Yeah, actually weirdly very gentle.
But masking some kind of jealousy.
Yeah. So jealous. And wanted to buy me everything. Almost that control thing. Do you know what I mean? Almost like kind of wanted to do everything with me. Yeah. So I would kind of make you feel guilty for, well, I bought you that, and just wanted to be involved. Yeah. So and I remember the policeman saying to me, like, you know, don't go back, he'll do it again. And I remember thinking, there's not a hope. Like, I think it, like, in a way, Rebecca, though, I think it's really important to kind of point out, I wasn't in love with this guy.
Okay.
Then, do you know what I mean? We had broken up. Okay. I wasn't, like, married to him. I didn't have children with him. So it was very easy for me to say, of course I'm never going back. Like, you know, I'm
a strong, smart, educated
woman. Yeah, but I was also like, if I had been in a relationship, still in a relationship with him, if we had had children, if I was in love with this man and he had done this to me, I can't say how I'd have reacted. But because I wasn't,
financially entangled,
like all the ties,
children,
I had none of that.
It's really hard.
Really, I that's a whole new level. Like very luckily now, I have a very calm husband. Like I've never, ever had an ounce of worry on anything like that.
But also you don't know in people, do you?
No.
Like, this man obviously was in love with you. You weren't in love with him. You were having a fun time. It didn't work out, and he snapped one day. But it was in him to do that, right? But this is the problem. Women don't know when they fall madly in love if someone is
so
is
in a way,
abusive.
I was lucky because I was not attached, you know, and I was able to kind of make that clean break.
I'm out. She's having a coffee break with gorgeous cousin Emer. But you went through hell to disentangle or detach from all of that, and you did eventually come back to Dublin. Not in, like, some women are in that, some women think about those times when they were with these shitty men, because we do also do that. Like, it sounds like you weren't some vulnerable woman looking for some guy to solve your life. He just turned into a prick, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And an abuser. I shouldn't be kind of like, you know, jovial about it. He was an abusive person. But so many of us kind of look back at these really black times in our lives and we're like, oh, how did you change and turn your life around? Did yoga help? Did your family?
Absolutely.
Like, what happened to change? You were saying it was a turning point.
It was. And my family were a huge part of it. I remember my dad. So I came home, and after a few days I'm talking 2 or 3 days, Dad was like, right, we're getting out. Got me out of the house, got me doing things, because like I just wanted to sit in and like see no and do nothing. So I really kind of credit Dad for kind of starting that. And then a few of my friends were the same. They kind of were getting me out of the house. And then, you know, I'm a very stubborn person, which can be great for lots of things, you know. But like, I just kind of said to myself, no, this guy is not going to win in this. Like, he is not going to beat me down. Like, this is not the end for me. Like, so I kind of had my little time of feeling really sorry for myself, feeling really kind of low. And then I was like, I have to build myself back up. And I genuinely believe yoga saved my life. Because for me, like, I went back to London and I went back to the mat. And like, physically, initially for the first few weeks, it was just, I couldn't really move. But I went to the mat, I went to class. I found a teacher that I just connected with, and I just sat on my mat. And often I couldn't move. And even getting to the yoga studio, that was huge. Like, just going to the yoga studio, maybe grabbing a coffee. So it was little bits, but I like set myself goals because I wasn't working. I couldn't go back to work. So like, I set myself goals every day, and I was like, I'm going to build myself up, and I pushed myself a little bit further. I've always been like that. That's why they say yoga
practice. It's the practice of getting up, putting on the gear, even
rolling out your mat, stepping onto your mat.
It's such
like
a practice.
It is. And like, it's so funny, like when I started yoga, anyone who's kind of known me for a while will know, like, I always joke about it, that like I was never a typical yoga person. Like, I was kind of dragged along to my first class on the promise of a glass of wine afterwards, because I just like was like, it's not for me.
Treat night.
Yeah. Like, and I started with like a hot yoga or power yoga, and like then all of a sudden became addicted. I was like, wanted to do it every day. Like, and for me, it was very much a physical practice for years, even through my teacher training, if I'm being totally honest. The whole mindfulness piece, or that, like, it's wrong to say it wasn't my buzz, but it just wasn't where my focus was. But I really kind of got the benefits from that through this really challenging time, and just learned to be with myself. because I would be that person who's like, I can't switch off. We can all switch off. Like, you just tell yourself the story you want to tell yourself to make yourself feel better. You know,
I'm not good at being quiet.
But we do. Like, and we all need to slow down and we all need to switch off, and everybody can. It's just having the right tools, and sometimes it's finding the right teacher to help you. And, you know, I genuinely feel if I can do yoga, anybody can. So for me, that practice of getting back onto the mat, just that kind of giving myself these little kind of goals of like movement each day, and that, like, just getting onto the mat was huge. And then I just kind of set myself a goal of getting myself back into an apartment, getting a new job. And it was so funny, I literally had the boxes ticked. I was there a couple of months and I was like, okay, now I'm fine to come home. But like, also, like, you know, that's still with me. Like, I still, you know, there's times that like I will still feel that hit me. Like, you know, obviously with things I see or things I read, there's certain programs like I just can't watch stuff like at all. And I just get like, you know, it's crazy sometimes how it hits me. Like, I have a 4-year-old, Beau's 4, Jack's nearly 3, and sometimes Beau will be just, you know, they kick out or they hit out, and I completely panic. It's almost like a trigger. Exactly. And, you know, I'm saying to Neil, oh my God, like, what are we doing wrong? I don't want him to hit. You know, so I've had to do a lot of work around that, and it's an ongoing process. That's not done. It's a journey. And I'm still doing that work because I still feel there's times where I feel very vulnerable, you know, a little bit anxious. Like, I can't, like, going around London to me now is, allergic. I do it if I have to. I haven't been there a lot, but like, I have a couple of friends there and I've gone to, but it'll never be a place where I feel comfortable. You know, you're kind of like looking over my shoulder or whatever, but, you know, I don't need to be in London. That's fine. I don't feel that on a daily basis here, but it has impacted my relationship because I pull back a little bit. I sometimes question myself. I'm like, oh, what did you mean by that? And it's like, I meant exactly what I said. Like, Neil is not one of these people who's like hidden meanings. Yeah. Like, so, you know, luckily he's very patient, and like most of the time we talk through things really well, but like, you know, it has added a layer there. And like that, the way it surfaced with the boys, like lashing out or like hitting me, or I was so unexpected.
But that's also great because you have these tools now, and you're going to raise these strong but sensitive souls in a way that perhaps that chop or many men around the world are not raised. And this is why I'm loving this generation of women raising boys, because they're fucking brilliant. Exactly.
But equally, it's also changed for me since I've had Alessia. Like the protectiveness of her, and, you know, like, just it's just interesting, like, now that I have a daughter, the thoughts of her going through this, or, you know, like, what kind of world we're growing up in. So it's really interesting. Obviously I'm protective of the boys as well, but it's just different. Like, I want to you know, raise them to really respect women and to empower them and how, you know, whatever. But also with her, it's just funny, and she's only 7 months old, so I'm just kind of starting on that journey. But yeah, it was a really difficult time. It was like, I did what I needed to, I suppose, in terms of my recovery or getting over it. And I would just encourage anybody in a situation, you know, whether they're in a marriage or any kind of relationship, it's like, don't worry about the future you. As in, don't worry about how will I cope with this, but what about this? If you're like, you've got to dig deep for you in that moment and just look after you, get yourself safe, and the rest will come. You know, don't let those I can't, because you can, you know, change your narrative. And I feel genuinely I was so lucky because I didn't have all those worries of other people involved. But I think it's just, you know, trust yourself, get yourself back, and start tiny baby steps, but every one is a step in the right direction.
Such a full circle moment, I think, from you and I talking about our sadness and our little broken hearts, mending those hearts, which will kind of always be a little bit tattered, to getting here. We can hear Leslie outside dying to see her mama, to your journey from a pretty toxic relationship to maybe other relationships, but now to this marriage, and who knows what'll come for you. But it is a full circle moment having you back in here. I know how anxious you were last time I had you on about the end of the pregnancy and how that would go, and having her safely in your arms, which she is now. You make me very proud. I'm not related to you, I'm not in your close circle, but you make me very proud as a woman, because you do what you say you'll do. You're helping others. You're stoic in what you do. Like, there's an authenticity around you. You have an incredible story to tell, which is why I wanted you to tell it. And I just think if anyone wants to reach out to you, or on Instagram, it's Julie. Oh God,
yeah. So it's just Julie. I change it all the time, but it's Julie Millen _ is what I am.
And it's yoga, mindfulness, a great family story, parenting as well, tidbits,
the madness
comedy,
of motherhood,
honesty, and it's just a lovely place to land. I don't feel like there's any filters or fakeness. It's just gorgeous. You're a wonderful person. Keep doing what you're doing. I think we might have you back for another episode someday. But thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Emil.
Sponsored by Aptamil Follow-On Milk. We believe that every feed is a gift. That's why we've dedicated over 50 years to breast milk research and created Aptamil Follow-On Milk. Aptamil Follow-On Milk, your life, our science. Breastfeeding is best. Follow-on milk should be used as part of a mixed diet from 6 months. Talk to a health professional. I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Little Birdie Told Me, and if you did, it would mean a lot to me if you could like, subscribe and share this episode.